Whenever I'm walking around the natural history collection, I'm always on the lookout for something particularly interesting. You know, animals that look very unusual. They're very colorful, have long legs or noses or beaks or something like that. And I found a couple things in a cabinet over here that I'd really like to show you, if that's all right. Let's go check it out. Okay, if we zoom in, we'll see exactly what we're looking at. Ornithology. This is in the bird collection. Cabinet 8. We have limpkins, cranes, rails, a couple things which you might not be familiar with, but that always means that they're going to be particularly unusual. I'm cracking this guy open. Let's flip the camera around and catch that cabinet before it falls. Place it down, perch it up against cabinet 9, and here we have the cabinet. Standard setup you're probably used to seeing. We have 9 shelves, top to bottom. On the right side, if you're looking closely, we have labels describing what's inside. Here's a warning. Okay, now that you're ready, I think we're gonna pull out that first shelf and see what we got. Go it in, pull it out, take a step up, and reveal what we're looking at. These are 2 Sandhill cranes, absolutely enormous birds. Museums have a lot of trouble storing massive birds because they're so massive, obviously. The solution often is to kind of do what we have here. Fold the head back, tuck the legs underneath, just kind of fold them up as much as possible so that it can fit into one of these shells. But this is what we're most interested in here. This obviously is a bone specimen. It's a sternum. This is a bird. This is the sternum. Now that we know what we're looking at, let's pull this guy out. Okay, this is very unusual because if I pull this out, flip it up like this in the correct orientation and turn it towards this light, if you look very closely, it seems as though there's a tube that's winding its way through the sternum. That starts at the bottom, it's that shadowy thing, goes up, loops itself over, and then exits right there. This, my friends, is the crane's trachea. A trachea is kind of like your windpipe. It's where you breathe. It's also where birds vocalize, create their calls. Why is their trachea winding around their sternum like that? This is unusual. Most bird tracheas go right down to their lungs. This is not very unusual for cranes. Here are other cranes that have tracheas that wind their way through their sternum. The thought is that a super windy crane trachea, such as this, has a way of amplifying the call so that it can be heard from very, very far away, which I think is particularly interesting and very unusual, but not as unusual as the next thing that we're gonna see. Just a warning, this is particularly creepy, but that means it's gonna be cool. We're pushing in that tray, we're going down to the second one right here. Here we're looking at something called a king rail, which is a strange bird specimen that is right here on the right. This is what we're checking out. Those toes, my guy. Ooh la la, they're so crazy. Rails are birds that have super, super long toes. This is a great specimen over here that I'd really like to take a look at. It's just a king rail specimen, but those toes are clearly visible. Perching it on the side, getting a close look. Why are these toes so big? Well, the thought is that rails such as these live on marshland. Marshland has a lot of floating vegetation on ponds and lakes like that. So what a rail does is it will take those gross long toes and spread them wide and wide out. This allows them to walk on that floating vegetation and kind of make their way throughout the entire marshland much more easily. Interesting adaptation that personally I think is really weird. A gincana is another bird that has the same adaptation, very long toes to help it walk on marshland. There's a viral image that was going around the internet a couple of years ago where it looked like a bunch of toes were dangling from the bird's wings, and that's exactly what was happening. This is an adult gincana that has all of its babies tucked in under its wings, and their toes are dangling around. Just long toes to help them walk around marshland. It's that simple. We're gonna put this little king rail back, scoot this one in, and go down to our final tray, but not without taking a little detour. I think this is just so cool. Rail chicks are jet black, and I have absolutely no idea why. So if you know, let me know in the comments. Scoot that in. We're going back to the bottom. Our last specimen, specifically we are looking for the American coot. These ones are ridiculous. If you know what coots are, they look like this in the wild. Bam, they're very recognizable on ponds and things like that because they scoot around. They kind of look like chickens in the water when they swim. And this is what they look like preserved. We have a whole tray of coots right here. We have chicks, some adults. They're very, very plump and kind of this slate gray color. But what is going on with these toes, my guy? What the heck is this? They're kind of these flat pieces of skin on all of these toes. If we tilt upwards, this is what it looks like when they're all spread out. It's kind of like they're not webbed, but they're not webbed either. These toes are called lobed toes. Coot have feet that are kind of webbed, but they're also kind of not webbed. And this functions by allowing these birds to do things in the water and on land. Ducks have webbed feet. This allows them to swim. Chickens don't have webbed feet. This allows them to walk on land. But coots have a little bit of both, and this allows them to do a little bit of both. These feet allow them to walk on land relatively easily, but also swim around in the water also easily. They're like amphibious birds. They can do it all. Let me know if you enjoyed this. Let me know if you'd like to see something different. I don't know. I have a lot of stuff to see. Thanks for watching. Bye.